This is your world news broadcast. To the headlines. President Tebboune marks National Army Day. Army General Shingriha hails the Army's readiness and tributes it to its role in strengthening Algeria. Spain says 5,000 Moroccan migrants refuse to return home. Madrid protesters blame Rabat for the exodus and tensions rise across Morocco. Gaza buries 112 victims in a mass funeral. The UN reports over 150 Palestinians killed last month, and Qatar says Hamas remains committed to the ceasefire. Iran says it has foiled a ground invasion. Washington expects a Hormuz deal within hours, but Tehran says there is no alternative to the strategic waterway. Welcome back to our program. First up in our news tonight, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune has presided over a ceremony honoring retired military personnel as the country marked the 5th National Army Day. The event took place at the National Army Club in Algiers, where President Abdelmadjid Tebboune was welcomed by Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense and Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, Army General Said Shingriha, and received a formal military salute before the ceremony began. The ceremony began with a minute of silence in memory of the victims of 2 recent road accidents in Boumerdès and Timimoun. President Abdelmadjid Tebboune then honored retired members of the National People's Army, families of fallen service members, and veterans injured in the fight against terrorism. Medals were also awarded to families of national duty, martyrs, and military personnel recognized for their role in combating terrorism and organized crime. Before the ceremony concluded with a commemorative group photo.
الجريح في إطار مكافحة الإرهاب العريف إبراهيم مصطفاوي تيبا.
Speaking at the ceremony, Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense and Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, General Said Shingriha, said honoring those who serve the nation strengthens the country's unity and resilience. He stressed that the close bond between the Algerian people, their leadership, and the armed forces is key to safeguarding national security and reinforcing Algeria's stability and standing on the international stage.
بهذه المناسبة المتميزة.
On this occasion, I'm pleased to extend to you, Mr. President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, and Minister of National Defense, my sincerest welcome and deepest gratitude for your presence today to preside over the commemorations of the National People's Army Day. This is a testament to your recognition and appreciation of the sacrifices made by Algeria's valiant sons and daughters, the officers and personnel of the National People's Army, both active and retired, and the veterans of the National Liberation Army. Our duty today, as we celebrate this constellation of heroes, is to put an end to the scourge of forgetfulness. We recognize that standing by these stalwarts who contributed to the nation's development and sacrificed for it during its darkest hours is not merely a moral obligation, but a debt we all owe. It is a sincere expression of our recognition of their crucial role in preserving the pillars of the nation state, combating the remnant of terrorism, and thwarting all the vile plots that targeted the security and stability of our country and the unity of our people.
In a message marking Algeria's National Army Day, Army General Said Shingriha praised the People's National Army for its pivotal role in laying the foundations of the independent Algerian state and defending the country's sovereignty under challenging circumstances.
At the end of the glorious war of liberation, the People's National Army assumed its historical responsibility toward the nation with complete dedication and sincerity. It played a decisive role in laying the solid foundations of an independent Algeria, strengthening its pillars and defending its territory and resources under difficult circumstances marked by limited capabilities and scarce resources, not to mention the devastating consequences left by colonialism. Despite these challenges, our country, thanks to the effort and sacrifices of its loyal sons and daughters, succeeded in rising to its feet and moving steadily forward. Within a short period, it achieved major successes and significant accomplishment, enabling it to attain a distinguished position at both the continental and international levels.
Army General Saicheng Riha reaffirmed the People's National Army's commitment to continuing its modernization efforts. He expressed satisfaction with the military's high level of operational readiness, highlighting its strong capabilities as well as its continued success in combating terrorism and other forms of organized crime.
Today, thanks to your dedication, you who stand watch along our borders and across every inch of our beloved homeland, the People's National Army continues its steady path of modernization by strengthening its human and material capabilities and enhancing its defensive and technological capacities. This is to ensure it remains fully prepared to fulfill its noble constitutional duties and to live up to the trust placed in it by the proud Algerian people. In this regard, we take great satisfaction in the high standards our valiant army has attained, both in terms of the operational readiness of its units and the outstanding results achieved in combating terrorism and various forms of related crime. These accomplishments are the result of the tireless efforts of all members of the People's National Army without exception, especially those stationed along our vast national borders and deployed across the country's territory, as well as the effort of the various security services.
Army General Saicheng Riha renewed his call on all members of the People's National Army to continue serving with dedication and professionalism. He urged them to remain committed to strengthening the armed forces and ensuring Algeria's security, stability, and the safety of its people.
So that we never forget the sacrifices of our illustrious ancestors who preceded us in sacrifice and devotion, I call upon you on this precious national occasion to remember with reverence the souls of our righteous martyrs who offered the greatest examples of sacrifice and selflessness during the popular resistance movement and the glorious war of liberation, and the souls of the martyrs of national duty who gave their all so that Algeria may remain stable, proud, and prosperous. Finally, I can only reiterate my sincere congratulations to all members of the People's National Army on this momentous national occasion, urging them to continue their sincere and dedicated work to realize our noble goals, achieve greater strength and resilience for our armed forces, and ensure the security and peace of our dear country.
Turning to regional affairs now, Algeria and Nigeria have reaffirmed their commitment to advancing major strategic partnership projects aimed at boosting development and strengthening infrastructure across Africa. During talks in Algiers, senior officials from both countries reviewed cooperation in politics, energy, and the economy, with a focus on the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline, the Trans-Saharan highway, and the Trans-Saharan fiber optic cable. They also discussed upcoming bilateral visits and exchanged views on key regional and international issues. Elsewhere in the region, Tunisia's state electricity and gas company has thanked Algeria for its continued support in helping meet the country's record electricity demand. In a message to Algeria's Sonelgaz, the Tunisian utility praised the close coordination and cooperation between the two companies, saying it reflects the strong ties, solidarity, and strategic partnership that unite Algeria and Tunisia. In another sign of Algeria's regional cooperation, Algeria has reaffirmed its readiness to share its mining expertise with Sudan. During talks with Sudan's ambassador to Algiers, Mines Minister Murad Hanifi highlighted the investment incentives offered under Algeria's new mining law, aimed at attracting and protecting investors. The Sudanese ambassador, for his part, praised Algeria's vision for this sector and expressed Khartoum's interest in building long-term mining partnerships through direct institutional cooperation. Authorities in the Spanish enclave of Ceuta say around 5,000 Moroccan nationals remain in the city and are refusing to return to Morocco. Ceuta's regional president Juan Jesus Vivas said the situation remains strained, with reception facilities still under pressure. Spain's Interior Minister Fernando Grande Malasca said around 72,000 Moroccans crossed into the enclave over Thursday and Friday.
This made it possible to repatriate the vast majority of those who had entered Spain through irregular channels. As of July 30, as you know, we estimated that approximately 72,000 people had entered Spain irregularly. Of those, nearly 70,000 have already departed.
Now to Europe, thousands protested outside Moroccan diplomatic missions in Madrid, accusing Rabat of orchestrating the migration crisis in Sudan. Demonstrators called for tighter border controls, with some describing the mass crossings as an invasion of the Spanish enclave. Meanwhile, the mass movement of Moroccan migrants towards Sudan is fueling growing political and social tensions inside Morocco. Analysts say the incident has evolved beyond the migration crisis into a sign of mounting public discontent. With political parties and rights groups joining the criticism, observers warn that the events have exposed widening gaps between official narratives and the country's economic and social realities. Turning to the Middle East, in Gaza, an entire chapter of family history has been wiped out. The funeral of 112 members of two families has become one of the deadliest and most heartbreaking symbols of the occupation's extermination war on the Strip. More details with Zara Ferjani this time.
Two family names have become synonymous with an entire generation lost. Their final goodbye has become a funeral without end. 112 coffins carried on mourners' shoulders told the story of the immense tragedy unfolding in the Gaza Strip. 112 members of two families were killed, among them 44 children, 37 women and 23 elderly people. But statistics alone cannot capture the scale of the loss. The stunned faces and silent tears of grieving relatives reveal the depth of the wound left by the Zionist bombardment.
Today, 112 members of the Bushariya and the Hassaina families are being laid to rest. These families were targeted at the very beginning of the war, when Israel completely destroyed the entire residential block, killing a large number of civilians.
The funeral was more than a farewell to the victims. It became a procession of grief through the devastated streets of Gaza City's Sabra neighborhood. Coffins draped in Palestinian flags carried the weight of lives cut short, dreams extinguished, childhood stolen, mothers taken before they could bid farewell to their children, and elderly family members whose memories now live on in those they left behind.
But the tragedy doesn't end there. To this day, more than 8,000 bodies remain trapped beneath the rubble across Gaza.
The victims were pulled from the rubble of their homes after Zionist airstrikes reduced entire buildings to ruins during the ongoing war on Gaza. Civil defense crews continue searching for those still missing, working with scarce resources in a race against time.
From this place and from this historical funeral, we send a message to the world. You must recognize the gravity of this tragedy. You must understand the immense suffering our people in the Gaza Strip continue to endure.
The two families are gone, leaving Gaza to bear witness to one of the war's most harrowing tragedies. Entire family lines have been erased, leaving behind little more than names on gravestones and another painful chapter in Gaza's long record of loss and suffering. Above all, many say the tragedy has only strengthened their resolve to remain steadfast in resisting this brutal occupation.
The United Nations says more than 150 Palestinians were killed by Israeli occupation forces in Gaza in July, marking the highest monthly death toll since the start of the year. A UN spokesperson said Israeli occupation airstrikes, shelling and gunfire continued over the weekend, killing civilians, including children. Most of the attacks were reported in western Gaza, where the majority of the territory's 2.1 million residents are sheltering.
The Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says the daily airstrikes, shelling, and shooting continued across Gaza over the weekend, reportedly killing dozens of people, including children and other civilians. On Saturday, one strike hit the area of Al-Aqsa Hospital, damaging an adjacent medical storage facility. The World Health Organization tells us that this caused the destruction of essential medical supplies, including some that they had delivered. Due to the proximity of the attack, the hospital building also sustained minor damage. The Ministry of Health reported that more than 150 fatalities, including dozens of civilians, were documented in July, the highest reported monthly death toll since the beginning of the year.
Qatar has accused the Israeli occupation of delaying the implementation of the US-backed peace plan aimed at ending the war in Gaza. Foreign Ministry spokesman Majid al-Ansari said Hamas has fulfilled all of its commitments under the ceasefire agreement, adding that Israel's intensified airstrikes in recent days are undermining efforts to reach a peaceful resolution to the conflict.
من الواضح أمام المجتمع الدولي من يعطل تنفيذ الاتفاق.
It is clear to the international community which party is obstructing the implementation of the agreement, while the US President Donald Trump posted regarding the second phase and his endorsement of the plan through the statement he published in recent days places full responsibility on the Israeli side. What we have witnessed in recent days, the escalation, the targeting of civilians in this manner, and the killing of more than 30 people in these continued attacks is nothing more than an attempt to derail the implementation of the plan and prevent progress toward a peaceful resolution of the ongoing conflict.
Meanwhile, in Iran, a senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader says the country foiled what he described as a US plan to launch a ground attack against Iran. Speaking to Iranian state television, Mohsen Rezai claimed strikes targeting bridges in the southern province of Hormuzgan were part of the alleged plan, adding that what he called US miscalculations ultimately led to its failure. The Iranian official also accused US President Donald Trump of pushing the world toward a third global war. Mohsen Rezai said Iran would not allow a second corridor through the Strait of Hormuz, warning that Iranian forces would target any warships or military units approaching the area.
This American confusion could ignite the sparks of World War III. The American measures and objectives to control the Strait of Hormuz carry within them the potential to trigger cross-regional conflicts and involve other powers. America is the one disrupting security in the Strait of Hormuz. Therefore, America is the one that must take the first step and change its behavior. If the decision is to continue with the previous approach, then maintaining the blockade will put their warships and vessels within the range of danger.
Despite the escalating rhetoric, diplomatic efforts to end the US-Iran war gained some momentum on Tuesday, with Qatar saying mediators had made progress and US officials pointing to advances in talks focused on reopening the strategic Strait of Hormuz. Marabella reports now.
Following a series of threats and contradictory statements, diplomacy this time is at the forefront. On Tuesday, Qatar said mediators were making progress in efforts to end the US-Iran war, adding that they were coordinating closely to facilitate negotiations and exchange draft proposals between Washington and Tehran.
Right now, we don't have anything on the books when it comes to direct talks, of course. We are doing our job as mediators along with Oman and the other mediators and Pakistan and everybody in the region in exchanging ideas between parties. But we are hopeful that if we can get a resumption of the talks anytime soon, we'd be able to push forward towards a major deal that would help us walk back into a situation of peace in our region.
The optimistic tone was mirrored in Washington, with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Secretary of State Marco Rubio both pointing to progress in discussions aimed at reopening the Strait of Hormuz.
I think that there's a conversation and negotiation that we are involved in between Oman and Iran on how more ships can be able to go through there safely in the short term as we move towards these longer term talks about denuclearization. And suffice it to say there's been progress made in those talks, but not finality yet. We're hoping that will happen very shortly.
We are in talks with the Iranians, and I think there is a chance we may have a deal today or tomorrow to open the strait and move towards a more normalized position in this conflict.
Iran, which has long demanded control over the maritime corridor, has also reported ongoing talks with Oman over its management. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghi said discussions with Muscat are focusing on designating what he called safe inbound and outbound lanes in the strait, in line with, quote, national security considerations of both countries. Reports of diplomatic progress pushed oil prices down by around 6%, reflecting a growing optimism that an agreement to reopen the Strait of Hormuz could ease supply concerns and restore stability to global energy markets.
Now to Africa, the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is worsening, with infections continuing to rise and health authorities racing to expand treatment capacity to contain the deadly virus. More on this report by Karim Sfawi.
As Ebola cases continue to rise in the Democratic Republic of Congo, authorities are expanding treatment capacity in an effort to contain the virus. A new 100-bed treatment center is due to open this week in Bunia, where health services are under mounting pressure in a region battered by years of conflict and displacement.
As you can see here behind me, there is a barrier. This is the red zone. When a case is triaged here and suspected of being Ebola, the patient is referred to one of the isolation rooms located behind me. We have the capacity of 8 beds here. From that point, we take over the care, collecting the initial samples for testing. If the test result is negative, after 48 hours, we run a second test. If both tests are negative, the person is discharged and returns home, receiving treatment for any other conditions associated with the initial suspicion.
According to the latest government figures, more than 1,700 have died since the outbreak was declared in May 2026. Health officials say the virus is spreading faster than any previous Ebola outbreak.
We don't like the trajectory of this outbreak, and it's already the second largest outbreak in the world. But if we take a photo after 14 weeks of declaration, it's the biggest outbreak, 7 times more than the West African outbreak. We cannot continue like that.
The Ebola outbreak is also taking a heavy toll on those on the front lines, as more than 100 healthcare workers have been infected since the outbreak began.
Elsewhere on the continent, Sudan's army says it is preparing to launch a coordinated military operation on multiple fronts against the Rapid Support Forces as it seeks to regain full control of the country's territory. Speaking to troops in Omdurman, Army Chief General Yasser Al-Atta said the armed forces remain a professional national institution with no allegiance to any political group and are determined to end what he described as a rebellion and restore state authority across Sudan. Turning to Eastern Europe now, 5 people have been killed and 6 others injured in what Russian authorities say was a Ukrainian drone attack on the Moscow region. Governor Andrei Vorobyov said the strike also damaged an electricity substation and sparked fires in the industrial area of Novoselki. Meanwhile, in the United States, the U.S. State Department has reportedly informed Congress of plans to close 5 diplomatic missions as part of a rare move to reduce America's global diplomatic presence. According to Reuters, the closures would affect U.S. consulates in Grenada, Japan, Indonesia, Cameroon, and Canada. And finally, in sports, the Algerian Football Federation has announced the departure of national team head coach Vladimir Petkovic and his coaching staff by mutual agreement. In a statement, the federation thanked the coach and his team for their dedication and commitment throughout their 29 months in charge of the national football team. That wraps up our news program for tonight. Thank you for watching. Good night.